Have you ever noticed how sometimes things just feel a bit off?
Off out.
Like, the groceries you just bought suddenly cost way more, or the news you're reading, it
Yeah.
just doesn't quite add up.
Yeah. That feeling.
It's that nagging sense that maybe, just maybe, the reality we're navigating is a bit more, I don't know, manufactured than we realize.
Well, it's a sensation that's becoming more and more common, I think, and it's precisely what we're diving into today.
Okay.
Our deep dive unpacks a really powerful concept popularized by an entrepreneur and writer named Josh Stilman. Fiat everything.
Fiat everything. Okay, so not just fiat money like currency.
Exactly. It goes way beyond that.
Yeah.
Stillman argues that our entire existence pretty much has become manufactured, or as he puts it, fake, across nearly every domain of our lives.
Wow, okay. And this Stillman, he's not just some academic, right? Our sources mention he's got real-world chops.
Oh, yeah. He's described as a 30-year entrepreneur, founded Trees Brewing.
Right, the brewery and cafe.
Yeah, and he apparently publicly clashed with the New York municipality over the anti-corona measures. Actually stepped down from his own company because of it.
So he's definitely put his money where his mouth is. A contrarian thinker, grounded in reality.
That's the picture, yeah. His articles, like Fiat Everything and From Fiat Everything to Real Everything, they really lay out this idea that we're living in a generation where almost everything has become, well, fake. It's a strong word, but that's his term.
So our mission today is to explore these insights from Stillman. How does this whole fiat thing actually show up in our daily lives? Health, economy, products, education.
Right. And what are the impacts psychologically, societally? And crucially, what does Stillman and maybe others suggest we can do about it? How do we get back to something more real?
And, as always, we'll try to connect these bigger ideas to what's happening now and what it means for you listening.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's jump into Stillman's core thesis then. This idea that it's not just fake money. He says fake health, a fake economy, fake products, and fake education. That's a lot.
It is a sweeping claim, absolutely. But he builds this picture piece by piece, and a key part is what he calls the credential cartel.
The credential cartel, what's that?
It's his term for a new class of experts who, as he puts it, conveniently confuse establishment approval with wisdom.
Okay, I think I see where this is going, like during the COVID period.
Exactly. That's a prime example he uses. Trust the science very quickly became don't question government policy.
Right. The questioning itself became the problem.
Precisely. Critical inquiry, which is, fundamental to science, suddenly got framed as rejecting truth itself. It's a subtle but really important shift.
Yeah, that is a critical distinction. It's like the badge, the credential, matters more than actual competence or independent thinking.
And this thread continues into our daily lives with what Stillman calls the subscription society.
Ah, okay. The shift from owning things to just accessing them.
You got it. Think about it. Fewer people owning cars, maybe renting instead. Or those bike services like swap feeds.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Seems convenient.
It's marketed as cheap and convenient, sure. But our sources, and Stillman, point out it's often way more expensive in the long run. And more fundamentally, Stillman argues this shift basically disarms us as individuals.
Disarms us how?
Well, it turns us into perpetual renters of our own existence, Instead of owners building something, building assets, it quietly eats away at personal wealth and, maybe more importantly, our agency. Makes us less discerning about true cost.
That hits home. And Stillman connects this to something else, right? The panopticon.
He does. It's a powerful metaphor. Most people know it from Jeremy Bentham's prison design or maybe Orwell's 1984.
The circular prison, single guard tower in the middle. Prisoners never know if they're being watched.
That's the one. And what's kind of intriguing is our source material mentions these prisons aren't really built anymore because there's too much visibility the other way.
Huh. Interesting detail.
But Stillman takes that concept and applies it to modern life. He suggests we now live in a totally transparent world or system. Constant observation is just the default.
So it's not a physical prison, but a societal one, built with data and systems.
Exactly. And there's this quote from Stillman that really drives it home. The systematic replacement of natural systems by artificial systems has reached every domain. Money, food, health, education, information.
Wow.
He sees these things not just as isolated changes anymore, but as morphing into a, quote, coordinated operation.
A coordinated operation. That sounds
Yeah,
intense.
here's words. The complete replacement of reality by regulation or decrees, ownership by access, and competence by qualifications. That really paints a stark picture of how deep he thinks this fiat everything goes.
Okay, if that's the diagnosis, it must have some pretty profound effects, psychologically, societally, not just economics. Stillman talks about manufactured subservience.
Absolutely. And pliability. He suggests the system encourages these traits.
How so? Is there any evidence for that?
Well, the sources share this really striking data point. Apparently, there's a graph showing a significant decline in conscientiousness among young adults, like 16 to 39-year-olds, just between 2014 and 2024.
Conscientiousness. You mean like being organized?
It's broader than that. Stillman connects it to things like wealth building, the ability to delay gratification, resisting manipulation. It's tied to, entrepreneurship achievement.
Okay, so a decline in that trait is concerning. How does the subscription society feed into that?
Well, if everything is instant access, always available, maybe the need for long-term planning, for patience, just kind of erodes.
That makes sense. Why play the long game if you can get the dopamine hit right now?
Right. And our sources contrast this with the past. Skill development used to take years. Now we have weekend boot camps.
Or relationships formed by swipes instead of, shared work and building trust over time.
Exactly. It's a fundamental shift in how we approach value, commitment, even skill.
And this all loops back to the money, doesn't it? When money becomes fake, everything becomes fake.
That's the core argument. Money is supposed to be this abstraction, a representation of real goods and services in the economy.
Right.
But when you create way more money relative to those actual goods and services, well, products don't need to compete as hard for that money. Prices just rise.
Leading to that hamster wheel feeling.
Precisely. You feel like you're running harder and harder just to stay in the same place. Your purchasing power keeps shrinking.
And it feels like the only ones really getting ahead are those who already own the assets.
Yeah.
The houses, the businesses, which they then rent out to the rest of us.
Stillman calls it a crazed game for advantage. Everyone's scrambling.
And this erosion of real value, it doesn't stop with money or goods, does it? It affects trust, and trust in institutions.
Big time. Our sources point to the COVID period again, suggesting many scientists, quote, lost credibility because they seem to align with the money printer's narrative. Meaning prioritizing maybe economic or political considerations over purely impartial scientific inquiry. Whether that's accurate or not, the perception was that it undermined the impartiality of science itself.
And the media, we hear a lot about that.
Yeah, the consolidation is stark. The figures cited are pretty incredible. 1930s, maybe 50 companies controlled U.S. media. Now, it's down to 6 controlling 90%.
6 companies, wow. And it's even more concentrated in other places.
Apparently so, like the Netherlands. And what's more, you have these huge asset managers like BlackRock and Vanguard as major shareholders in these media giants.
So people like Larry Fink at BlackRock.
Yeah.
The sources suggest they have significant influence over the narratives we consume.
That's the assertion. It means the information pipeline is potentially very narrow, controlled by just a few interests.
Which leads to things like that quote from the former CBS News director, Richard Salant.
That's a chilling one, isn't it? Our job is to give people not what they want, but what we decide they ought to have.
Yeah. It really lays bare that potential for centralized control over what people think, what they understand.
It feeds directly into what Stillman calls the modern dilemma.
The modern dilemma.
We are, in his words, creatures of the system we criticize, every convenience modern life offers. It seems to inevitably bring more control with it.
It's a catch-22.
Exactly.
Right.
The tech that lets us talk globally also enables global surveillance. The platforms that democratize information, they also allow for attention weaponization.
Attention weaponization, manipulating focus using algorithms.
For specific agendas. And systems that promise freedom end up delivering what he calls refined slavery. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What stands out to you when you hear about this kind of catch-22?
It just highlights how tangled up we are in it. The convenience is so seductive, but the price, it's often hidden.
It definitely highlights our complicity, yeah. The tools we embrace for good reasons also bind us. It's a huge challenge.
So are we just stuck in this fiat world? Or are there ways out? Does Stillman offer any hope?
Thankfully, yes. He draws inspiration from thinkers like Jeffrey Tucker.
Founder of the Brownstone Institute, known for his critiques during COVID.
That's him. Stillman, inspired by folks like Tucker, offers solutions for building resilience, for moving towards real everything.
Okay, I'm listening. In this world feeling increasingly fake, what are these key actions? How do we get back to real?
Stillman lays out 4 crucial steps, or maybe mindsets. First, embrace long-term preference. Delayed gratification.
Okay. How's that revolutionary?
Well, in a world totally designed for addiction to the immediate, that instant consumerist hit, that dopamine rush from buying something, choosing patience becomes almost a radical act.
Like investing to the long haul instead of day trading, or actually taking time to learn a skill.
Exactly. Allowing processes to unfold naturally rather than demanding instant results, resisting the immediate gratification cycle.
Okay, resist the urge for the quick fix. What's number 2?
Second, prioritize craftsmanship over disposable consumption.
Meaning.
Instead of just throwing something away or calling a pro the second it breaks, Stillman suggests we cultivate practical skills again. Learn to fix a leaky faucet, mend your clothes, maybe even basic appliance repair.
Reclaiming agency, becoming less reliant on just buying new or hiring out everything, moving away from that throwaway culture.
Precisely. It builds self-reliance.
I like that. Turning away from being helpless consumers. Okay, number 3.
Third, value generational knowledge over credentialed expertise.
So trust grandma's wisdom.
In a way, yeah. Stillman argues we should trust inherited practical wisdom, maybe it is a family recipe, or traditional ways of cooking, or home-based health practices, and not solely rely on abstract institutional experts.
Right, he mentioned microwave meals kind of killing off basic cooking skills for a generation.
Exactly. It's about preserving and valuing the wisdom passed down through families and communities, not dismissing it just because it doesn't come with a fancy certificate.
Makes sense. These skills used to be fundamental. And the 4th principle.
Finally, and this ties it all together, foster innate wisdom over external authority.
Trust your gut.
More like trust your own judgment. Encourage self-reliance. Think critically about the information you receive. Don't just blindly accept what external authorities tell you. Question things.
So delayed gratification, craftsmanship, generational knowledge, and trusting your own judgment. That's Stillman's framework for resilience.
That's what he suggests, yeah. Our best defense against a Fiat Everything society.
It's a powerful framework.
But, as compelling as that sounds, our sources also suggest this Fiat mentality is pretty deeply embedded now, even in how authorities respond to criticism. There are some current warnings related to this.
Yeah, unfortunately, a really stark example cited comes from a recently leaked Dutch police document.
A police document about what?
The title translates to something like recognizing, interpreting, and acting on conspiracy theories and anti-institutional thinking.
Wow. Who does it target? Well, the sources indicate it effectively targets critical people, those who question this very everything is fiat system we've been discussing. It outlines a matrix to identify conspiracy thinking, radicalization, and even links them towards extremism terrorism.
Okay, what counts as conspiracy thinking, according to this document?
Things like believing a perverse elite disturbs the lives of the people, or explaining societal developments via conspiracy. Specific themes mentioned include COVID, nitrogen policy, the Dutch allowance scandal.
And the language triggers.
Yeah.
I read about those. Phrases like wake up people.
Yeah, or even just it doesn't add up.
But it doesn't add up is basically the starting point for any scientific inquiry or investigation.
Exactly. That's what makes it so concerning. It seems to pathologize critical thinking itself.
Did anyone push back on this?
Oh, yes. Dutch MP Peter Omtzigt, who was instrumental in exposing that allowance scandal.
Where thousands of families were wrongly accused of fraud, lost everything.
Right. He wrote a strong letter to the police criticizing these guidelines. He basically said government failures, like the scandal he uncovered, are raw and very harsh reality, not conspiracy theories.
He's got a point.
He argued people have very well-founded reasons to distrust the government sometimes, and they have the right to say so. Labeling genuine concerns born from real failures as radicalization just helps obscure government errors.
That connects straight back to Stillman's idea. When institutions fail or create a fiat reality, questioning it gets reframed as dangerous to maintain control.
Precisely. And it's not just documents. There's another unsettling case mentioned, a 24-year-old arrested as a terrorism suspect for preparing a serious violent crime.
Okay. What did he actually do?
Well, according to the sources, he was a member of a nationalist student group, legally owned firearms. But the accusation of willingness to commit right-wing terrorist violence came from the Dutch intelligence agency, the AIVD, apparently without a concrete target or any advanced preparation being found.
So, based on perceived willingness, not actions.
The sources argue it looks like pre-crime, intimidation, where just holding certain views or being seen to hold them could be twisted into preparatory steps for violence.
That's incredibly unnerving. Criminalizing thought, making dissent itself seem dangerous.
It's fascinating, in a grim way, how systems might evolve to suppress criticism, even as their own flaws become more obvious. These warnings really illustrate Stillman's Fiat Everything concept in action. When the official reality feels fake, questioning it gets you labeled radical.
So we've covered a huge amount today. We dove deep into Josh Stilman's concept of Fiat Everything, this subtle but pervasive shift from reality to regulation, ownership to access, competence to just qualifications.
Yeah, and we looked at the impacts, that decline in conscientiousness, the erosion of trust in major institutions, that hamster wheel feeling.
But importantly, we also explore the path towards real everything. Stillman's ideas, inspired by thinkers like Jeffrey Tucker, about reclaiming our agency.
Right. Embracing delayed gratification, valuing craftsmanship and practical skills, respecting generational knowledge, and ultimately trusting our own innate wisdom and judgment.
It really feels like a call to action, doesn't it? In this world where convenience and control seem so tightly linked, how can you, listening right now, actively choose to cultivate your own real reality? How can you exercise your critical thinking without getting shut down or labeled?
It's the crucial question. What small steps can you take, maybe even this week, to transition from fiat to real in your own life? What things, skills, assets, knowledge, relationships will you choose to truly own?